Hello and welcome to Coffee with Carey. Thanks for popping on by today. I appreciate you being here. If you're new, I'm Carey, matchmaker, dating coach, and because I talk to clients all the time, every day, all day, and I love it. I really do. What could be better than helping people to find and connect with other people? It's an amazing job. And then I just figure whatever we are talking about over there, I can share with you here, and I reach so many more people to benefit from the conversations and the problem solving that we do in those conversations and those Zoom calls. So today I wanted to share with you 5 red flags you should not ignore on a first date. That's what we're talking about. This is first date, not down the road after you've met family and friends and all of that. This is really early on in the relationship. Very simply, 5 red flags that you should not ignore. You should definitely step back, consider whether these are things that you can live with or contend with long term. Let's get right to it. Had a conversation recently where the woman said my client was very dismissive to the wait staff. And not rude, but just like treated them, she didn't like it. And I brought this to his attention because I didn't like it either. And he said, there's no way I would have ever been dismissive or rude to the waitstaff. I grew up in the restaurant business. My dad owned restaurants. I'm very aware of the people who are serving me in a restaurant and how busy they are. And I'm always very kind to people who are doing that to help me out and bring me food. So I don't know where this got lost in translation or who was misreading a situation or whether he said something he didn't understand. But if somebody is rude to the people who are there working, trying to handle and juggle a bunch of tables and bring you your food in a timely manner, anybody who treats those people as less than in some way is definitely not somebody I would continue to date. And I would think that's something that you should think about if you run into that on a first date. Something to ponder for sure. I just think it's a lack of respect that is not attractive or appealing to me in any way. If you feel the same, make sure that you take some time and think that one through or pay attention to it at least on the next date to see if it was a one-off or somebody with a little bit too nervous or just not thinking, or if that's a true personality trait of this person and whether that's something you can live with. Number 2, the second red flag, that on this date with 2 people, you and this other person, you are still somehow a third wheel. And how could that be? Not that you ran into somebody you knew out at the restaurant or coffee shop or wherever you're having your date, because that does happen quite often. And it's interesting to watch people juggle that and handle introductions between a first date and somebody that they know but perhaps don't know super well. It's fun, and it is, I would think, telling as to who this person is and how they handle social situations like that. Definitely something you can learn about them in that scenario. But this third wheel situation scenario is because somebody continues to talk about their ex nonstop very often. They don't know how to share a story without it also including the person they were with when they experienced whatever was going on in this story. So they're talking about their ex-wife or an ex-girlfriend or ex-husband or ex-boyfriend, depending on situations. I wanted to say that this is not good. If you are a person who is doing this yourself, check in with yourself. Make sure you switch up your stories and figure out how to tell them from your own perspective, from your own point of view, without having to make it about the other person you were with and sharing that experience or that vacation or whatever the story might be about. It's about you. You're the person on this date. So figure out how to share what you thought about it, your thoughts, your feelings with the person you're dating. If somebody else is constantly talking about their ex, it's going to make you wonder whether they have truly moved on, whether they have a healthy compartmentalization of that situation. You want to know that somebody has had enough time to do any grieving they might have to have done, do any counseling that might be very helpful to them. but you want to make sure, and I'm not saying that somebody can't talk about their ex. Maybe they haven't learned how to reframe their stories to not include an ex, but I'm not saying don't see this person again. They're totally hung up on their ex because they brought him or her up 3 or 4 times in the course of sharing stories. But if the conversation is about the ex, for sure. The other way, you might just want to pay attention as time goes on to make sure that it's just something they haven't figured out how to do yet. But if the conversation is trash talking an ex, or it's talking super highly of somebody as if they're still longing or still missing this person, it's making you feel like a third wheel then, I would think. And that is, for me, a deal breaker. It has been a deal breaker for clients. You have to think about it for yourself, because I'm not telling you what you should do. I'm telling you what you should take a closer look at. That's number 2. We recently did an episode about oversharing, because it is something that I see happen and something I see ruining dates often. So don't be the person who's oversharing. Be aware if somebody else is oversharing, that you want to maybe figure out why that's happening. But oversharing alone is not a deal breaker. But if it's also accompanied with negativity or complaining, these are things that come up in that same genre that I find these often get grouped together. And one of the biggest turnoffs in this complaining or negativity is often about the price of things. That it comes up in conversations, and it's come up about my own clients, that he complained about the menu, he was talking about buying a new car and ridiculous the prices, clothing, everything that they talked about. He would bring up how everything was much too expensive these days, and he was moaning about it and bitching about it, and it was a huge turnoff to her. And it was kind of interesting to me, because I get to see what his income looks like, and I know there may be some sticker shock if you haven't been out for a cocktail in a while. I remember going out, I don't know, just years ago already, someplace in the city to go dancing with a girlfriend. And the last time I remember having cocktails out, they were like $7 or something. And to go out and find that a drink was $15, it had doubled in price. And this was 10 years ago. I was definitely sticker shocked. But if somebody's out there dating, they know what things cost now, unless you're their first date. And if there's constant negativity, or they have a curmudgeonly attitude about things, and it's just negative and blah, 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 it's a turnoff, and nobody's going to want to date that, and you probably don't either. That could be a deal breaker for you. You know you, so you figure out what is acceptable to you and what is not. Next up, I would say that sometimes you find that people are in a rush to get to a certain comfort level, a certain point of physicality perhaps, or a closeness in a relationship, and it's too much too soon. I don't want somebody I barely know. I'm using myself as an example here. I would not want somebody that I don't know touching my leg or putting their arm around me. I haven't yet decided if there's a physical attraction perhaps. So be aware. If physical touch is your love language, make sure that you wait until there is perhaps some starting feeling before you start with that physical touch. It makes a lot of people very uncomfortable. And I think also it's sometimes indicative of somebody wanting to not be dating, but just jumping ahead to the next stage of a relationship where you are super comfortable and it's very romantic and touchy-feely, and they just don't want to take their time to get there and do the work that it takes to get to that level of a relationship. They want to just be there already and enjoy holding somebody's hands and giving them a peck on the cheek or resting their hand on your waist or your thigh. And if that's something that you do, be aware. Not everybody likes it, and you can't hurry love. And I'll tell you, there's another aspect to this rushing things and trying to move to that next stage of dating so quickly, is that it makes a person feel like this affection is not necessarily meant for them. That perhaps you're a person who's just in love with love, and it makes them feel like they're not special. You would be doing this with anybody because you enjoy that physical intimacy, or crave it, or long for it, or have missed it for some time. And while that's understandable, it can be off-putting. So check in with yourself if you're a person who does have physical touch as a love language, and if this person is making you feel uncomfortable, definitely be sure to set your own boundaries and let somebody know that that's making you uncomfortable. You do not have to tolerate any physical touch that does not feel comfortable to you. I wanted to remind you of that. But that is a deal breaker. If somebody is just rushing ahead and where you feel like somebody is pawing at you on a date, and this goes for men too. Women can be very touchy-feely, and if it's a turnoff, that's it. That's the end of the date, and feel free to let them know that you didn't appreciate it. And then finally, the last red flag would be you just find this person for whatever reason, just ugh. You know, I always say to people, we are not looking for, but if we run into red flags or deal breakers, those are the reasons we don't go on a second date. And one of those deal breakers has always been a feeling of ugh. And while I don't think you have to know immediately whether or not you are attracted to somebody or whether physical attraction can develop from what you are feeling on a first date, I do know that if you're feeling ugh, you're never going to come back from that and find that you have a very strong physical connection or attraction to this person. So a feeling of yuck is another major red flag deal breaker that you should not ignore because you're probably not going to be able to fix that. I hope you found these 5 helpful, and if you did, please give the episode a thumbs up. Leave us your deal breakers, your red flags down below in the comments and share with us. I answer all your comments. I always do. And I will look forward to hearing from you. Make sure you subscribe, hit the ring bell, then you're notified every time I upload a new episode. And I'll look forward to having you back again soon. Appreciate you being here today. Have a good one.